Welcome to Season 2, Episode 4 of the Sports Biz Report. I'm Kevin Rossi and Kevin Murray here with me, filling in for the absent Mike Proska. Today we're going to be talking a little bit about situation coming out of Louisville. So as the story goes, ESPN released some of the numbers for revenues for the top 8 college basketball teams last year, and Louisville topped the charts. So I'll just read you the ones that I remember off the top of my head here. They made close to $27 million in profit last year. That's off about $42 million in revenue. And they made almost $42 million $15 million off of luxury suite sales in terms of revenue. Overall ticket sales were $25.8 million. So, these are some pretty staggering numbers. I believe they averaged a 98% capacity on the Yum Center, which it holds about 22,000 for a basketball game. We're also talking Rick Pitino, who is paid, I believe it's $4.6 million last year.
$4.9 million.
Sorry, I underestimated it. So yeah, these are big numbers. They were the most profitable team in the country last year. $1.35 million in profit per home game.
Per game.
That's insane.
I think that's more than Drexel profits the whole year.
Profit, guys, not revenue. Profit. So, you have that infographic, this nice pretty infographic on ESPN.com. And mentioned all nonchalant, nice at the top, is that the KFC Yum Center costs $238 million, and then it's publicly funded. Louisville did not raise money for this. This is not a private doing like most college facilities are. Publicly funded. Taxpayer money. So, I guess we'll start off real quick. I'll turn it over to Kevin on what are your thoughts just in general about public funding of sports facilities in general, not specifically pro or college.
Sure. In general, public funding is going to happen because a sport franchise brings a lot to a city. But if we're talking specifically and comparing college to pro, it's very rare that you see a major metropolitan city like Louisville. 614,000 people live within Louisville city limits, funding a facility specifically for a university. So, yes, the University of Louisville is a public university, but it's very rare that you see a city funding just for a college. There's normally, if you look at, for example, in Philadelphia, every stadium here is used by a college at some point. So Temple plays their football games at Lincoln Financial Field, but that was built for the Eagles. It's very rare that you see a city spending money for a facility for a college program. And then in turn, it's very rare that you see whoever is using a facility taking so much of the profit back for themselves as an organization rather than giving it back and paying off some of the debts that the city incurred.
Right, because a lot of these deals in obtaining the public financing, looking at it basically from a pro standpoint, since this is so popular in pro sports, cities will justify it with the lease deal, but usually they're sweetheart lease deals. They get massive tax breaks, and they're really not paying the full value of that property at all. And you look at Philadelphia, for instance, they're still paying off debt on Veterans Stadium. Mm. And Veterans Stadium, if anybody listening doesn't know, has not been around for about 10 years now. So
rest in peace.
Right. So you see the issues here, and you had the SEC investigation into Jeffrey Loria in Miami, and a lot of issues arise. Louisville, when you read deeper into their stadium deal, they were actually planning an on-campus facility to take the place of Freedom Hall. And then the city actually approached them and wooed them off of campus into the general city area to build this stadium. Louisville takes home 90% of the revenue for games that happen. It was budgeted that the city would fund $9.8 million in the season. But then you look at all the projections that were like grossly overestimated, and these are some things where they estimated revenue. It's kind of tricky language when you get into that, but they're grossly overestimated. So there's some where they estimated, say, $7 million going to the city, and it came back with zero. So the shortfall ended up being $22 million for last year. So you have that in comparison with Louisville's then close to, $27 million in profit. So, these are stark contrasts. And the big Louisville city justification for this is they're behind the scenes. That nothing public has really come out of this, but they're trying to bring in an NBA team. So, do you think it's fair to use the taxpayer money to essentially take a risk on bringing in an NBA team with nothing finalized?
I think it's a really interesting topic and idea, because if comparatively you look at Farmers Field in Los Angeles, for those of you who don't know, is not a real thing, yet Farmers Insurance is paying tens of millions of dollars a year to have their name on a facility that hasn't been built for a franchise that is not in existence currently, which is a Los Angeles football program. So, if we're looking at that sort of comparatively, I don't think it's appropriate in any stretch of the imagination to plan a facility as a public domain. So looking at the city of Louisville, to plan this facility, spend $200 million on this facility, a lot of that being taxpayer money, and without a guaranteed stream of revenue coming in to pay back that debt. So a $22 million shortfall last year for this facility was strictly in paying back the debt. So there was literally no profit for the city of Louisville last year, let alone money being paid off on the debt. So this is just digging a deeper and deeper hole. And obviously it would be great to bring in an NBA franchise, but there's no sort of statistics saying that you build a big stadium, you bring a franchise in, that means people are going to fill the seats.
If you build it, they will come.
Right. There's no guarantee. So this is like a really, really risky thing that they decided to do. And obviously the KFC Yum Center, which I'm uncomfortable saying, is still it's a beautiful facility. It's one of the best in college basketball. But the fact that it was paid for by taxpayer dollars, and it's called one of the best facilities in college basketball, and that college is not paying off that, yet profiting $27 million a year, is just unacceptable and absurd. Louisville got off with a big steal on this one, because once you sign that dotted line, you're in or you're out. And in this case, the University of Louisville is in.
Yeah, and I think the scary part about all this is that it was the city's doing. They're the ones who came to them and, they essentially made the prototypical sweetheart lease deal, and now they're paying the price. And it's honestly, the deeper you dig, the scarier it gets. So the city of Louisville kind of set up basically like an ownership group. It's just by technicality, really. It's an offset of the city government who owns the facility, and that's kind of where all the money funnels through. If they default on the payments and they basically go bankrupt, the University of Louisville takes over ownership. So the university benefits from this entity folding, so then they have their taxpayer funded facility, and it's theirs. And you can argue all you want that the money funnels down, the profits that Louisville basketball made funnels down to the other sports, and that's true. But that's not the issue here. This isn't paying college athletes. This is affecting everybody in the area, and
600,000 people.
And it affects everybody in every major city. Usually not via a university. establishment of higher education, which should be immune to these kind of moronic deals, honestly. But the NFL, they actually encourage teams to take public subsidies. That's how the league bases what they give to teams. And that's kind of an incredible thing when you think about it. Like, they're encouraging robbing the taxpayers. Obviously, you can see I'm completely against taxpayer money being used, but I don't know.
And I think I am not privy on any major economic issues within Louisville currently, but if you look at a city like Philadelphia, who has been rumored, and not really rumored, it's pretty well known that they're planning on applying for the 2024 Olympic Games, which is coming up within the next 3 or 4 years is when this would really take off. Just closed 50 schools last year, which is all obviously publicly funded. Yet a bid application for an Olympic bid, I couldn't even tell you how much it is. It's probably at least $50 million just for the bid. Right. And then to actually come through with the game and come through with planning. You start building for an Olympic Games before you get accepted as the winning city. Madrid has been building for an Olympic Games for the last 4 bid cycles because they've been the final in the last 4 bid cycles and have lost each time.
Right.
This is just like absurd money. And as much as I love sports and as much as everybody who is involved in sports loves sports, the fact that it's really robbing the taxpayer blind, and then in turn benefiting somebody like Rick Pitino because he's getting paid $4.9 million a year is just absurd. It really is ridiculous.
I agree. And you look at economic impact studies on teams that are in an area, not say the Super Bowl, which brings in a lot of outside people, not the Olympics, World Cup. They all bring in outside tourism. But teams like an NFL team, teams like MLB teams, NBA, NHL, economic impact study after economic impact study has shown that the benefit in terms of tangible dollars is way overstated. It's just false. It doesn't happen. All it does is move money around within a certain area, which is not impacting much. You're just changing hands. You have that, and you would have to think these kind of things are becoming more common knowledge and more people are starting to pick up on it. But, everybody looks at, how everybody rallies around the team, how the city rallies around the team. I mean, hypothetically speaking, if the Eagles left town, this is all hypothetical. Of course, I don't want the Eagles to leave town. And their recent renovations were actually privately funded, $125 million. If they left town, would the city of Philadelphia fold? No, we just have one less team to look forward to and then be disappointed by. I mean, you look at these things and it's like, we love sports and sometimes we get caught up in our sports bubble. But if there was no team there, would we be okay? Most of the time the answer is yes. So that's just kind of what I want to leave you guys with. Be careful with your tax money and be careful who you vote for. If you missed the last election, shame on you. So for Kevin and Kevin filling in for Proska, thanks for joining us. We'll be back next week.